The other presenter is Minister Albino. Is Minister Albino around? Please, podium.
Your Excellency, the first Vice President of the Republic, Your Excellency, the Vice President, General Taban, Right Honorable Speaker of Council of States, the first Deputy Speaker of the TNLA, my colleague ministers, Excellencies, Governors, Chief Administrators, and the ministers of the states, chairperson of specialized commissions, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, mine will be presentation because I thought of giving a speech and the speech will not highlight what I want to say. So I said, let me make a presentation. Although I withdraw some of the maps because I already known to participant here, but I wanted to focus on some issues. But first, Your Excellency, I want to appreciate the opportunity because for me, with my docket, I always wish that we interact as the national government. I always brief you, Your Excellency, in the Council of Ministers about humanitarian situation. And I also go to the states. But this opportunity that all of us are in one room is a rare opportunity for me, and it is a privilege so that we share all this together. So it is an honor, Your Excellency, to be here. We were expecting this presentation to be tomorrow so that we do it in our good time. But since you ordered me, Your Excellency, I will present it. Then the presentation is about, it consists of introduction of the humanitarian situation. And then we will see briefly about the impact of Sudan crisis on South Sudan. Although we report on it last year here in the 7th Governors Forum, but we will make some update on it because it is continuous. We also reflect on flood impacts, which is the current event that causing the humanitarian crisis factor in the country. Then I will highlight mitigations, measures, and the intervention we did as the government of South Sudan and our partners together. I will also try to briefly shed light on some achievements and the challenges, and then I will conclude with the recommendation. Your Excellency, in the introduction, the humanitarian crisis factors in South Sudan, or let's begin by humanitarian situation generally in South Sudan is dire, is very dire, Your Excellency. Because this year alone, 9 million people were affected by different factors. And 7.1 million people were in humanitarian need. The factors ranging from conflict in Sudan, and then the impact of climate change that is bringing floods, and in some areas drought, like in Eastern Equatoria. And then internal conflicts or communal conflicts, and economic hardship. All these, Your Excellency, are factors of humanitarian situation in the country, especially in this year, that made it to be very dire. All these factors has destroyed the livelihood of the people of South Sudan, making it very difficult for the people of South Sudan to contribute in nation building. Because simply, when the people are affected, their ability for them to contribute or to participate in production in the country is limited, and in some areas is zero. So these factors has contributed to the huge impact on livelihood of people, made them to be vulnerable, and they could not participate in nation building. If we come to impact of Sudan conflict, Your Excellency, as the first factor, since all of us, we know since April 15, 2023, when the conflict in Sudan erupted, a lot of people moved to South Sudan. And as of 28th this month, 2024, about 882,693 individuals have been registered to have crossed the border from Sudan to South Sudan. When we say it is now registered, we want to say that there is those who cross through entry points that we have not established. This is why we could not register them. So it is the number is almost more than 1 million people that have moved because of crisis in Sudan. Most of the arrivals are women and children. So you can see the vulnerability. Most of these people cross through Upper Nile State, Unity State, Ruweng Administrative Area, Northern Barghazal, and Western Barghazal. This is simply to say that from Maban east to Raja west, this is the line of the border between us and between South Sudan and Sudan, including Abyei Administrative Area. From this figure, Your Excellency, about 75.86% is South Sudanese people. Of course, we have big number of people that have been in Sudan. Some of them have been staying there as refugees. Some of them have been staying there as resident. They own some business, they own properties. Some of them have been started. So with the conflict, of course, the majority can be South Sudanese people moving to South Sudan. Sudanese refugees are about 23.5%. These are refugees that have crossed to South Sudan. And of course, there is other nationalities that represent the remaining percentage. They also cross to South Sudan. And this is because, Your Excellency, the implementation of the open border, the open door policy that we have adopted since the eruption of this conflict Let me also talk about the IDPs within and other returnees. Up to now, Your Excellency, we have over 2.2 million IDPs, internally displaced people. So these are also people who are vulnerable because of what I have just mentioned. Some of them are communal fights that cause the movement of these people. Some are those who have been forced by the previous floods to have moved within South Sudan. Out of this figure, Your Excellency, 881,383 are IDPs, are staying in centers of IDPs across the country. Of course, some have moved, but they have been, hosted, but some have moved and they are in IDP centers. About 124 centers across the country. We also have about 1.2 million spontaneously returned from neighboring countries. Of course, when we had problems, some went to the neighboring countries. This is why we have 2.2 refugees in the neighboring countries. Because of the implementation of peace agreement, RRCs, 1.2 have voluntarily returned to South Sudan. We also, Your Excellency, because we have also did some work to bring those who are also in other countries back to South Sudan. We received in September, just 2 months, we received about 21 people from Eritrea. These are ex-veterans that they were there, but they became refugees there and they willingly decided to come to South Sudan. We brought them also. But now, Your Excellency, we have over 70,000 people that are still, and they want us to, we are now planning to bring them back from Egypt. Recently, because of conflict in Sudan, some of South Sudanese who have been in Sudan moved to Egypt. And because of they are not, possessing any documents and whatever, they are now in problem in Egypt. Some of them are in jail. We received a report that 520 people are in jail because of that. This report we have already shared with our partners, and now we are making process that people to be transported back. Your Excellency, let me also shed light on impacts of floods. And this is the major event nowadays. From May, of course, we have received alert from impact, or what we call IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center, that this year we will receive abnormal or above normal rainfall in South Sudan. We also receive the notice through our Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation that Ugandan authorities are going to release about 2,600 cubic meters per second down to us here from the Ginger Dam, because Lake Victoria is full. Because of this, Your Excellency, we are now witnessing this flood in South Sudan. And of course, we have prepared for it. We have conducted interministerial kind of coordination until we arrive to a development of what we call South Sudan Preparedness and Response Plan 2024, which was approved by Council of Ministers. And if we can look into the map, this map shows that what we have predicted. It shows that these are the areas that are going to be affected. This map is very old, but this is for the purpose of reminder. We said 3.3 million people are going to be affected in these areas. The major states that are going to be affected, and it has happened, is the Jonglei state, followed by Unity, and then Upper Nile, Warab, Northern Barghazal, Lakes, and it comes to down up to Central Equatoria. Your Excellency, this is why I decided to go very quickly, because the time may not be enough. So this flood now, currently, the situation we are in, it has already affected 1.4 million people. And it is almost all over South Sudan of 10 states and 3 administrative areas, with the focus on 7 states that are mostly affected. All these have been affected, but 7 states are mostly affected. And 43 counties. Within the 7 states, 43 counties have been affected. Out of these, those who have been reported officially displaced, we want to distinguish between those who move alone, because there has already been early warning messaging that we have been making to tell people, please, these areas are going to be affected, move away from these. There is those who move already, but there is those who have now been caught up with the flood, and they have now been registered as displaced. There are 379,000 individuals that have been officially registered to have been displaced. This is within 43, but this 379,000 are displaced within 22 counties. And this is the current, the next map is the current situation now. And that is the most important thing. It shows that 1.4 is affected, 379 are now displaced, the counties 43, and it is 22 counties that have reported the displacement. This is the current situation that we are in now. And this is why we already term it to be already a national disaster. For the rest, let's also talk about, Your Excellency, mitigation measures and response or interventions that we made to all these problems. If we start for reminder, if we start with the conflict in Sudan, we have already developed the response plan, and the response plan costs, the government was pledged $15.3 million, where we receive or we use for equivalent of $4 million. And this, we use them to support onward movement from the entry points to the final destination. And we also supported the states who are heavily affected. Up to now, we have transported 319,975. This is jointly with our partners. But what we transported with the government money are 30,848. This is what we transported using the resources of the government. And the first one that we did with the partners, mainly IOM was the one transporting people up to now. We also, for the flood, this is for Sudan crisis, Your Excellency, but for floods, what we did as mitigation measures is that after we, developed the plan, we have now also did prepositioning of essential commodities to flood affected areas. This is one of the things that we did. We also engaged the communities to build, peace because of the floods. There has been cases that people move from one place to another. But what we told them, Your Excellency, is that when we move, we want you to move within the county, if possible. If you are displaced, we want you to move within the state, if it is not possible to move within the county. And if there is a cases that you move out of state, then a prior consultation is to be made between a state and another. And we are ready to intervene so that we establish that kind of peace negotiation so that we avoid further clashes between the IDPs and the host communities, which happened in the previous years. We made it very clear that people have to move within. We also attempted to improve humanitarian access so that people move freely to take the humanitarian needs and assistance to the areas affected. We mobilize the resources, as we said, from the planning, that for us to respond to this crisis or to this flood, we needed $264.2 million to be raised by all of us, the partners and the government. And the government pledged 76 million. Your Excellency, you can attest to that. The Council of Ministers approved this money. We also formed the committees in the states. We started with a high-level committee in the national, and then we formed committees, or we call them task force in the states. And the governors are aware of that, and we really thank the governors for that good coordination. And of course, as I said, we developed the comprehensive response together with our partner. As I said, the government approved equivalent of million, and then we together made early warning messaging. We also, Your Excellency, created awareness, and this was done by the high-level delegation and committee that went to the state, led by me, and was with me, my colleague ministers, Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation, and then my colleague Minister of Livestock and Fisheries. Was with me also the representative of TNLA, the chairperson of a specialized committee on humanitarian and human rights in the TNLA, plus our partners together, led by Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General in South Sudan, who is also the humanitarian coordinator and the resident coordinator. We went to the states, and I believe we visited all the states, especially those whom we thought they are going to be much affected by the flood. We also Of course, as a part of that plan, we mapped the areas, the safe zones, and this is where people later on were relocated. And as also a part of good coordination, we came and conducted, after assessing the situation in the states, we came and conducted a high-level consultative meeting that brought together all the partners and the line ministries and institutions that are dealing with this, so that we share all information and we decide. This is where it was concluded that this is amounting to a really national disaster in the country that should be declared by the president. As part of also intervention, Your Excellency, after all this, we also requested from the Ministry of Finance that an amount or initial amount, 55 billion, and of course 76 million USD was converted into SSP, and it was included into the budget. We requested from the Ministry of Finance, and this is the central point, to release this initial amount so that we respond. Your Excellency, up to this point, we did not receive anything from that fund. And this is why our intervention to this flood is not visible in some areas because of no funds. We collaborated with the states to come up with their budget on activities that they're supposed to do when the floods hits their states, and we received all this budget, and we were ready to disburse the budget to the states, but unfortunately, we could not receive anything up to now. When we talk about some achievements, I will not dwell much, Your Excellency, but I will just go over it briefly. We have launched what we call South Sudan Durable Solution and Plan of Action. This document, Your Excellency, is to address this humanitarian crisis for durable solution. We have also mobilized some support from our friendly countries, because we know that maybe we have no enough resources amidst this multiple crisis, humanitarian crisis. So we had also to seek support from our sisterly and friendly countries. Those who responded to us, Your Excellency, are China. China supported us with the food items and non-food items. Saudi Arabia, also, Your Excellency, supported us with the food items and non-food items. And this is the little that we share together with the IDPs that are in Juba here and in the States. We also, Your Excellency, as I said, visited when there is any crisis come, we always go to the grassroots. We go and share this information together with our governors in the states, so that we also see how to overcome all these challenges. We did this when the Sudan crisis erupted, and we also did with this issue of flooding. We also went ahead to strengthen our institutional capacity in disaster risk management and early warning system by training. We always bring people from states so that we train them. And we also, Your Excellency, did a good cooperation. We established good cooperation with our partners. And this is, I think, one of the strong factors that we are now trying to respond to the crisis that are multiple. This good cooperation, Your Excellency, is a product of good engagement between the government and the partners at the national level and at the state level. We also disseminated early warning messaging, and this is why, Your Excellency, maybe this flood, although it is devastated, it is to some extent, we managed to rescue the life of our people, because as we anticipated, it was going to affect a lot of people, but because of early warning messaging that we have done in a good way, people move before the crisis, and this is one of the achievements. We also did policy documents like disaster risk management policy that we produce, disaster risk management bill, IDPs bill. This is to govern all these categories, and missing person bill 2024. These are what we did. We also, Your Excellency, initiated the establishment of a special reconstruction fund. This is one of the requirements of Chapter 3 of the RRCs. We were almost coming to conclude it, but when we were almost coming, the last transitional period coming to an end, those activities stopped for some times, and then now we have resumed them after the adoption of the extension. So very soon, Your Excellency, we are going to establish this, and we are starting with the legislation of this body that we are going to making through the process until we go to enactment. We also establish what we call National Coordination and Operation Center. And this center, Your Excellency, is about owning the details, because for us to take a decision on humanitarian action, we need to have details, data. And the data, we were collaborating with our partners to collect these data. With this creation or establishment of this center, we are now going to own these data. We are going to collect them and own them as the government. So the data now will be taken from us as the government, unlike the previous way. There is a small challenges, Your Excellency, for me to conclude. We still have, from conflict of Sudan, we still have stranded people in Rang and Malakal transit site. These people or returnees, we intend to help them to go for their onward movement. We intend to help them to go for their final destination. But because of lack of resources, we are still having them in transit site in Rang and in Malakal, which their situation is not good, Your Excellency. The other challenge is, of course, issues of fund, because for us to have a good intervention and respond to the humanitarian crisis, we always need huge resources. We mobilize, but we don't access them. For conflict in Sudan, I mentioned that we still have money that we did not get, and for this crisis of flood, we did not get anything. So the major thing is now issue of inadequate cash. We have problem, Your Excellency, with the illegal taxation that are being from time to time imposed on humanitarian goods in some areas. Although we know generally we don't tax humanitarian goods, but in some parts, Your Excellency, we always receive this report that there is tax that are being imposed on humanitarian goods. We also have a challenge of safety of humanitarian workers, Your Excellency. It is being reported from time that some workers, humanitarian workers, are not safe and their assets are not also safe. We have been we have been coordinating with the governors on this. When we hear any report, we go back to them and we ask what had happened. They explain to us, and then we resolve the problem. I want to seize this opportunity for us to remind ourselves that safety of workers, of humanitarian and their items is our responsibility in this room, so that we allow our partners and NGOs to do their job to support our vulnerable people. This activity, if it is not stopped, Your Excellency, it will discourage the good work that our partners are doing in the states, together with those illegal taxation and sometimes roadblock. We are not talking about checkpoints, because checkpoints are put there purposely by the government. But we are talking about those blocks on the road that sometimes hinders the smooth movement of humanitarian goods and assets. We also sometimes witness, Your Excellency, the relief diversion, because what I mean by this is that, as I said, sometimes we mobilize this relief and we channel it through the state, through their coordination here. Sometimes it is difficult for this relief to reach to the state. I'm bringing it here because all the governors are here and we discuss it with some governors privately, but I want to say that this is one of the problem we have, and we want to make it very clear here. Please, we want those relief to reach the vulnerable people as they are. This is the least that we can do as the government of South Sudan. If there is anything that is happening like this, we want to resolve. This is one of the things that is not helping us. Your Excellency, we have some recommendations, but are not far from the challenges that I have just mentioned. Maybe it is just opposite. One of them is we want the Ministry of Finance to do its best to release the funds required for us to respond to this current one, which is the flood and drought in some areas. We also need those funds so that we expedite removal of these people from transit site in Rang and Malakal. We want, as I said, as the challenges, I have just concluded even the recommendations. Because of those challenges, the opposite of it is that we need to do the right thing. In conclusion, Your Excellency, despite the efforts made by various stakeholders in South Sudan to mitigate the emerging humanitarian challenges, the convergence of these challenges overwhelms resources and underscores urgent action for strengthening humanitarian response and resilience building efforts in South Sudan. Addressing these issues, Your Excellency, requires coordinated action from national authorities and even the states, international organizations, and local communities to mitigate the impact of recurring disasters, support conflict resolution, and foster sustainable development. Without such efforts, the cycle of humanitarian emergencies will continue to impede progress toward stability and recovery. Your Excellency, thank you very much for listening, but this is the summary, but we wish to share more than this. I will leave it to the participant. If there is anything that is not clear, we will be ready to respond to it. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Do we need 5 minutes? Huh?